So now we're going to look at a few examples going over finding or adding and subtracting polynomials. So looking at number 1, it says given the perimeter of this triangle 4x squared plus x minus 7, find the length of the missing side. All right, so this is one of these problems where we need to add, we're going to add both of these sides together, okay? And then we're going to subtract that from the total, just like we would if we just had numbers for the sides. So we're going to start with negative 5x minus 3 plus x squared plus 4x plus 6. And we're going to combine all our like terms. So my x squared is going to go up front. I have negative 5x plus 4x. Well, negative 5 plus 4 gives me negative x. And then negative 3 plus 6. Negative 3 plus 6 gives me plus 3. So that is the two sides combined. So now I need to subtract that from my total. So my total was 4x squared. What was it? Plus x minus 7. And then I'm going to subtract the other two sides. So x squared minus x plus 3. This is the way we're going to set up this problem each time. Okay, you combine your sides, and then we're subtracting it from the total. Now remember, when we subtract a polynomial, we have that negative 1 in front of the parentheses. So we're going to distribute that to everything inside. So when I rewrite that, I'll have 4x squared plus x minus 7. Negative 1 times x squared gives me negative x squared. Negative 1 times a negative x gives me plus x. Negative 1 times 3 gives me negative 3. And from there, I just need to combine my like terms. So 4x squared minus x squared gives me 3x squared. X plus x gives me plus 2x. And negative 7 minus 3 gives me negative 10. And that's going to be my final answer. Alrighty, so looking at number 2, I want you to go ahead and try number 2 on your own. Okay, start by adding up both sides, and then you can check your work with mine when you're finished. All right, try this on your own. Okay, so we're going to start by adding the two sides. So I had 5x minus 4 plus negative x squared plus x plus 5. So we're going to start by combining our like terms. I had 1 negative x squared, so it goes up front. 5x plus an x gives me 6x. And negative 4 plus 5 gives me plus 1. So that's the two sides combined. From there, I needed to subtract it from my total. So my total was 4x squared plus 4x minus 5. And then I subtract the negative x squared plus 6x plus 1. So to do that, okay, I'm going to start doing this part. Okay, I know that there's a negative 1 in front of the parentheses. So I'm going to distribute that to everything inside. So I'll have 4x squared plus 4x minus 5. Negative 1 times the negative x squared gives me plus x squared. Negative 1 times 6 gives me minus 6x. And negative 1 times 1 gives me minus 1. From there, I'm going to combine all my like terms. So 4x squared plus x squared gives me 5x squared. 4x minus 6x gives me negative 2x. And then negative 5 minus 1 gives me negative 6. And that's going to be my final answer. All right, so if you have questions about those first two, please make sure you're asking. Now we're going to look at number 3. Number 3 is a little bit of review, okay, just to make sure we're all doing great on these laws of exponents. Okay, so we've got a little bit of review here. First one, we have negative 2x to the 5th, y to the negative 3, z all to the negative 3. This is our power to a power rule, so we're going to apply that power to everything on the inside of the parentheses. That'll give me negative 2 to the negative 3. X, 5 times negative 3 gives me negative 15. Negative 3 times negative 3 gives me y to the positive 9. And then 1 times the negative 3 gives me z to the negative 3. Now remember, anything with a negative exponent has to get moved to the bottom. So the only thing that gets to stay put is this y to the 9. And we're going to divide out all of those at negative exponents. We're going to move them to the bottom. So it becomes negative 2 to the positive 3, x to the positive 15, and then z to the positive 3. Now we do have one last thing to simplify, and that's our coefficient. Remember, the numbers are always the last thing you do. So the y to the 9 just stays on top. Negative 2 cubed, well, negative 2 times negative 2 times a negative 2 gives me negative 8, x to the 15, and z cubed. And so that will be my final answer. If you have questions about that one, let me know. On the next one, I have x to the 1/8 times x to the 1/2. So for a problem like this is our product property, so that means we need to add our exponents. So I've got 1/8 plus 1/2. These are not common denominators, so I have to find the common denominator. So I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by a 4. So I'll have 1/8 plus 1 times 4 gives me 4 over 2 times 4 gives me 8. Add those together. 1 plus 4 gives me 5 over 8. Now, that's not my final answer. My final answer isn't 5/8. I have to rewrite that as the exponent. So it's going to be x to the 5/8. All right, and the last one. This one is also a product property, okay? So that means we need to add our exponents. The coefficients, though, we can treat like normal, okay? We never change how we treat our coefficients. So looking at that, negative 5 times 2 times a negative 3. Well, negative 5 times 2 gives me negative 10, times a negative 3 will give me positive 30. And then I have our x, of course. And then I need to add the exponents. So 5 plus 1 plus 8. Okay, so 5 plus 1 gives me 6, plus 8 gives me 14. So that's going to be my final answer for that one. All right, if you have any questions about those, please make sure you're asking. If not, you can move on to your